I'm sorry, but you left me no other choice. I called the FCC.
Oh, yeah, I know all about the FCC. They will clean up all your talking in a manner such as this. They will make...
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first ever Oasis Technology Podcast. My name is Michelle Morales, and I'm the Social Media Marketing Coordinator at Oasis Technology. And right next to me is Miles Bradford, our lovely and wonderful professional technician.
Hello, hello.
And right across from me and Miles is George Baldonado, our CEO of Oasis Technology.
Glad to be here. Thanks, Michelle.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining us. We are going to be focusing on three particular topics for this podcast. First being the Internet of Things, which is a very important IT topic that has been carrying over into 2015. And we will also be discussing hacking and ending with net neutrality, which is also a very big thing in the news right now.
Very big hot button issue.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
So starting with the Internet of Things, throughout my research here at Oasis Technology, I've discovered that the Internet of Things is really getting broader in terms of the things that ultimately end up being connected to the Internet, which is basically the simplest term of which I can describe the Internet of Things to anyone. But if you would like if you would prefer a more technical term, the Internet of Things is the interconnection of uniquely identifiable embedded computing devices within the existing Internet infrastructure. But the Internet of Things is a lot broader now, since we have things like watches that connect to the Internet.
Refrigerators, too.
Wearables. Also
cars, refrigerators.
Yeah. It's
insulin pumps.
Yep. It's all being connected now to the Internet.
Well, I guess you could kind of say Internet of Things is a study of connectivity.
Very
how everything can be connected.
Very true. It wants to, I think the main goal too is in that sense of connection, it'll allow people to kind of connect with one another on a more I guess personal level. Since it's getting fairly specific, I've noticed, like in the Consumer Electronics Show of this year that happened in January, they had things like beds, or even something specific as to yoga mats. So it's a very general market, but then it's also very niche as well for different things. So it's one of those topics where it's hard to see where it's going, because it could pretty much go anywhere at this point.
Well, actually, if I may interject, it's the where it's going, and everybody's looking towards the point where everything will be connected.
Things we haven't even envisioned yet.
Exactly. From your coffee cup to the coffee maker, to your home, to your refrigerator, to your television. Basically, everything will be connected. And this has great potential for a lot of people, but it does have its dark side too.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now that anybody can access their devices anywhere, that means that anybody can access your devices anywhere. So
that is the dark side.
It's going to be a very big deal in the future, very, very immediate future, if not already.
But it also affects privacy. Basically, once we do our connectivity, our privacy is little by little is getting whittled away. And once something is stored on the computer, it doesn't really ever go away. So it's important for us to keep in mind that it gives us that connectivity is going to give us a lot of flexibility, but there is a downside to it.
So would you say privacy is a thing of the past?
That's really a really good question, and I would have to agree that privacy is soon going to be a thing of the past. Now the question as to who controls that information,
that's the scary question.
That's the scary question. And who has access to that information? What are they going to do with that information? Do we want our lives telecast on television Do we want to push rewind in our lives and see what we did all day? That's a really good question.
Yeah, think of it right now. Your phone has a GPS. Anybody with the know-how can watch where you go every single step of the day, every day.
But yet, on the other hand, the internet connectivity gives us the ability for cars to talk to each other.
Absolutely. Smart cars on the grid.
Smart cars on the grid. They can drive on the freeway, talk to each other, let each other know when they're going to make a left turn, a right turn, when they're going to stop, and all the other cars talk to each other, and they realize when it's going to happen, and they all adjust accordingly, which means great efficiency in our traffic grid. But on the other hand, it also lets everybody know where you are at any specific moment. So if you're going to surprise somebody with a surprise party, that's going to be kind of difficult with the connectivity that we're talking about.
Yeah, especially if your refrigerator knows about the surprise party,
If your refrigerator knows, and you can now buy refrigerators that are internet ready.
They really are. I've seen them.
They are available, and you can now connect them to the internet. So now you can know, what you're low on in your refrigerator and stop off at the store to buy it before you get home.
My new washer and dryer I just bought are Wi-Fi compatible, believe it or not.
Oh, so there's no excuse now for people who have dirty clothes.
I still got lots of excuses, but no good ones apparently.
I've also heard that there's a lot of apps now for the Internet of Things to sort of keep track of ultimately
Yes.
what the device is really, what information it's gathering for you. And I heard that some people may not like that because then they have to keep track of all of these different applications on their phones, because usually that's how the Internet of Things is operated. It tells you information through your phone. And since mobile devices are increasing significantly and the mobile use is increasing a lot more, then that I think will make us even more glued than we already are to our technology. So I find that to be very interesting, but I think it was something that somebody mentioned felt that was a con because they have to, constantly something's updating me and telling me this and telling me that. And
I can see that as being an annoyance.
No, most definitely. And now you have a situation where you're constantly being bugged by a variety of things at this point in time. Back in the old days, and in the early 1900s, people got this thing called a radio, and they thought that was great because they were now connected with the entire world. Well, now with the Internet of Things, everything is connected to everything, even a heart pump, an insulin pump. A lot of these are Bluetooth now, and they can also be governed and managed by the Internet of Things and the connectivity. So in some cases, some of our jobs may be taken away, and a lot of our tasks may be removed. But then again, do we really want that?
And how many jobs do we can't even envision now are being created by technology that's going to be invented in the next year or two? There's a flip side.
That's a really good subject. I don't know if more jobs are being created or more jobs are being lost. Time will tell.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of startups coming up from the Internet of Things because now somebody has this wacky idea of, I could connect this thing to the internet and then this thing can, tell people this and whatnot. So I think we're going to see a lot of those kinds of startups coming, and they're trying to incorporate whatever they can to make some kind of application that'll be compatible with whatever thing they're trying to connect.
Absolutely.
That's true. It just what we're going to see, all in all, is a general reduction in manual labor. So we're going to see a reduction in manual labor. As Michelle mentioned, there's a lot of startups, but a lot of this is going to be thinking type work, design work, engineering type work. You're going to find more needs and more jobs required in that area, and less in the manual work area, as more and more things get automated and more machines develop a sort of artificial intelligence that will remove the need for manual labor.
So would you say we're in a way engineering our own future laziness?
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Years ago, they, being the prognosticators, said that with the rise of automation, that people weren't going to have to work as many hours, and they were going to have more free time.
Well, now you can be interrupted at any time, any moment of the day, so...
That's true. In one case, yes, you have more free time, and then again, less time, because we do work, a lot of us work 24/7. But on the other hand, if somebody can do a job today in 2 days that used to take somebody 5 days to do, I don't think that the employer is going to pay them for 5 days. They're just going to pay them for 2 days. So yes, you're going to have a lot more free time, but not necessarily paid free time.
Good point, good point.
So that's they didn't mention that part. So yes, some people will be getting more free time, but unfortunately might be in the unemployment lines.
It's always funny what they forget to mention, isn't it?
Well, they don't think about it. They everybody thinks about the positive aspects of the Internet of Things, but then there's like anything, any change, there's always a downside, and this requires adjustment. And since technology has been growing at such an exponential rate, we're actually at a point where I believe that we're actually growing faster than our human minds can absorb the change. So we don't have a chance to adjust to it before the change comes in.
Right.
And next thing you know, we're adjusting to that change, and already 10 other changes have already come in, and we haven't had a chance to even adjust to the last change.
Exactly, and then you have, big glacial, slow-moving beasts like government, which is then trying to play catch-up on everything, and usually just ruins the whole thing in the end.
That's very true. That is very true. But sometimes I think of that about. I agree with you on that, Miles.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree with you on that, and that actually may be a good governing force on that, because it does slow down the change.
A way, kind of a check and balance to keep
kind
it
of,
from developing
yeah.
too quickly.
Yeah, I don't think the government meant to do that, but they are doing that, and they are
Unintended consequences.
Yeah, but that's definitely unintended consequences. But that's what they are doing. They're actually slowing things down because they move so slowly. They're so ponderous and so glacial that it takes forever to get anything done at the government level. And meanwhile, things are changing so quickly on the technical side. So, in fact, that may be a governor to kind of reduce the pace of change to a degree, but it doesn't keep the technicians from developing stuff. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So if things are moving as fast as you say, how long until Skynet is here?
Well, believe it or not, if anybody who's watched Terminator,
Bill Gates just said last week he is terrified of AI. He doesn't understand why more people. Yes.
Yeah.
yes, well, the Internet of Things is the first phase
Of Skynet?
of Skynet.
It's here.
It's the connectivity.
It's true. You're absolutely right.
It's the connectivity. Now, for Skynet to work, everything had to be connected. Well, we are now connecting everything.
Very true.
So we are helping Skynet along, and once AI gets involved and everything's connected, and we no longer have control, well,
I saw that movie by Steven Spielberg. It wasn't that good.
wasn't that good? No?
I was also thinking, going back to the protection aspect of it, I remember, George, you were mentioning something, how the Internet of Things, that our Titan device that we sell can have an impact in providing protection for the Internet of Things. I was wondering if you wanted to go a little bit more in depth into that.
Yes, please elaborate.
Yes, definitely. Our Titan product helps us, and it's a tremendous product because it stops intrusions from the outside, and that's actually the problem that the hackers are taking advantage of, is they can get into people's computer systems from the outside, and they're taking advantage of the Internet of Things because everything is connected.
Now, could Titan protect other businesses that use, say, PLCs and SCADA networks, things of that? Is that all?
Those are all, believe it or not, they're all connected via the Internet. And this all boils down to the connectivity and the Internet, and the fact that a lot of our grid, our power grid, our utilities, a lot of things are connected via the Internet.
And just for those who don't know, PLC, programmable logic controllers, and SCADA networks, I don't know if you care to elaborate on what those are anymore.
Well, those are just the automated controls that actually control big factories, that actually reduce labor, and those controls control a lot of the tools and large tools and what's the word for it? The processes that assemble cars, do water treatment, do a lot of things that people used to do before. Now these are done by PLCs. So now that reduces labor. Well, again, these PLCs are going to be connected via the Internet of Things. So in theory, somebody could be in Washington, D.C. and actually running a factory in India using the Internet.
So then on the flip side, somebody in Yemen or let's say Syria could hack into a PLC network in America and say change some pumps on a water network, or what would they be able to do?
Well, they could shut down our grid. We could be without power. They could overload the grid and actually burn out wires, so we would be without power for months.
And we all know our infrastructure is old when it comes to power.
And our infrastructure is old. Our water infrastructure is old. Our sewer infrastructure is old. So if they were to actually attack that remotely and actually shut that down and destroy it, or even just mildly destroy it, it would take us months or even years to rebuild.
Now that we've talked about all the doom and gloom, though, you're saying one Titan box could fix that?
One Titan box can actually prevent that type of intrusion. And that's what we're trying to get people to realize, that with the Internet of Things also comes a responsibility of not only protecting yourself from intrusions, but protecting all the data that you may have on your computers and your networks.
Absolutely. Responsibility may be kind of a passé blasé thing now, but it's not going to be very, very soon here.
The sad part is that people don't think about that. People use Wi-Fi networks at various coffee houses and various restaurants and at the airports and what have you, not realizing that they're transmitting all their sensitive data through the airwaves, and there are people out there picking it up.
Absolutely.
So when they're doing their bank accounts and when they're doing their payroll for their office and they think they're saving time, they're actually transmitting this in the air.
All it takes is for somebody to be bored and have a little bit of extra time to figure it out.
That's right. And actually, really, the sad part is all they have to do is just record it.
Absolutely.
And then just take it home and work on it, and they can actually decode it at home. Mm-hmm. So all you really need is just a recorder, just to record all these transmissions and take them home, decode them, and now you have the information that you need to hack into somebody else's network. So that's why people have to act responsibly with regard to information, because actually information is king now in this world.
Absolutely.
So we're very concerned about that here at Oasis Technology, and one of the things we take very seriously is the confidentiality of not just our data, but all data, our employees' data, our customers' data, everybody's data, and we have to guard it because we all are guardians of this data, and I wouldn't want my bank giving out my information to anybody else.
Speaking of responsibility, I just read an article that came out just today about how much the Sony hack is ultimately going to cost Sony, and it amounts to $15 million.
Which hack are we talking about? The first hack, the second hack, the third hack? They have quite a few missteps that they've taken.
I believe it's the Sony Pictures hack, from what I could tell. Yeah, that it was Sony Pictures. That's going to cost them a lot of money.
How much money?
15 million.
50 million?
Or 15.
15? That's all?
I would have thought a lot more.
Oh, I would have thought a lot more. Absolutely, I would have thought more.
Yeah.
The government says that 100 terabytes was hacked. Now,
how would you even get that much data off of their network with nobody noticing? I believe that is the $15 million question, right?
That is the $15 million question. Now, 100 terabytes is equivalent to 100 1 terabyte hard drives. And if each drive weighs about a pound, you figure that 100 of those, that's 100 pounds of disk drives that somebody has to carry out of the computer room.
Or they could try and transfer it out through the internet, but then you would think that somebody would notice that much data being pumped out of the network.
Well,
if
they pumped out 100 terabytes at 20 megs, that would take a year and a half, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for someone to offload that much information. Now, for that to run for a year and a half and nobody noticed.
Somebody was asleep at the wheel for
a year and a half.
Plus.
Yeah, for a year and a half.
I heard they were severely understaffed, though, for their cybersecurity, too, so I think that probably played a role as well.
Well, even still, if they're pumping 20 megs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, their network would have suffered. Somebody would have complained.
Somebody would have noticed
that the network was very, very slow.
Yeah, their YouTube video wasn't playing fast.
That's
Facebook
right.
Didn't load fast enough.
Right.
Somebody somewhere would have complained.
Somebody would complain their Facebook wasn't fast enough. Like Miles said, the YouTube wasn't fast enough. Somebody would have complained.
Mm-hmm.
So since nobody complained, I'd be willing to guess that this was not done over the internet. My guess is it was an inside job. But I don't understand how somebody could, even if it was an inside job, somebody has to walk out with 100 hard drives. Now, I don't know how somebody could walk out with 100 hard drives.
It's like the old Johnny Cash song where he steals a part from a car every day.
Every day.
Yeah, and then in a year he has a full car.
That's right. And I think that's kind of what happened. Somebody was pulling out some data for a long time. And I don't understand why nobody noticed it, but somebody was walking out with hard drives.
Well, there's also a thing called willful ignorance. Maybe somebody knew and they just didn't care.
There's also payoffs and payola and all kinds of stuff like that. So who knows what actually happened?
Money talks.
Yeah, money talks, and the data walks out the door.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. I find it strange, though, too, because all on social media and whatnot, they like to discuss the problem of hacking a lot of the time. But then they don't really present any solutions to the problem. It's almost like we treat hacking as this unfixable problem. But and I know that too. Sometimes companies too, they want to play with how much of odds that they have, knowing that there's all these vulnerabilities out there. But they can be significantly, I think, reduced if they look into something like what we provide for Titan, which is to close that gap, close those holes.
Well, for any problem you have, there's always a solution.
Yeah.
And there are solutions to this problem, Titan being one of them. I think the problem is the perception that people have. People assume that this is a problem that can't be fixed, so why even bother? When that is the absolute wrong mindset to have. These are all problems that can be fixed, they can be prevented. People just need to educate themselves. Yeah,
as one author said, you can't be too lazy or too cheap. And a lot of people are lazy. Some don't have the funds to fix it. But it's not really that expensive. But what I'm finding really astounding is the number of companies out there who have significant vulnerabilities on the internet, and yet they don't do anything about it, and we inform them that they have vulnerabilities, and yet they still ignore it and don't fix the problem.
Because it can never happen to them. It'll happen to the guy next door, the guy upstairs, the guy below, but it won't happen to them. That's the mindset. That
is the mindset. I think people are playing the odds that they think that's going to happen to somebody else is not going to happen to them. And once that data is gone, you're not getting it back.
Right.
That's true. So I don't know why people are ignoring it. And I would venture to say that about 80% of companies out there that have servers facing the internet, 80% of them have vulnerabilities that they're not addressing.
I think you're being nice. I think it's a lot more than that.
Now, from what we've seen, I'll just say 80 to be conservative.
Okay.
Yeah, but I would tend to agree with you on that one.
Someone was saying, though, that new vulnerabilities will always end up coming up. I was wondering if there's a way in which sort of Titan addresses that, because I guess what they were saying was that that's why you can't solve the problem, because there's always going to be something else that'll come up. And
well, that's like saying, why do we invent antibiotics? There's always going to be new diseases and viruses, so what's the point?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll let you handle the rest of it.
No, that's right. Yeah, that's a really good analogy. But and that is one of the mainstays in preventing hacking, is that there is no one solution that's going to protect you forever. we may have a solution that protects us today, but tomorrow, who knows what may happen. So that's why our Titan comes with a 24/7 monitoring service. So when we see new hack attempts come up, we actually update all our Titan boxes out in the field. Very similar to the way the antivirus companies work. We actually update the boxes to new threats, such as the Heartbleed that came out last year, and then there came another one recently. I can't remember what that one was, but another one came out.
It was the Poodle attack.
The Poodle attack. That's it. The new Poodle attack. So that was another one, and we found those and we fixed those, and we send the updates out before anybody could possibly be hurt by them.
So you're able to push the updates out to each individual Titan through the internet? So
Yeah,
it's all
yeah.
automated? People don't have to do it?
Yep, thankfully through the Internet of Things, yes, we can push everything out so that they are protected, and we protect them, 24/7.
Now, how long would you say the turnaround time is when a new threat comes out? Does it take you, 2 months to implement something, a month, a week?
Sometimes maybe as long as a week, but sometimes as short as an hour.
Very impressive.
Yes. So we do get that out, but the Poodle attack and the Heartbleed were something that came up that we actually had to fix for immediately.
I also noticed too that the president, our president Obama, wants to pass cybersecurity legislation. He's proposing a $16 million or billion dollar budget for cybersecurity, and he wants the private and public sector to sort of work together and sort of solve this issue. And I'm thinking Titan could definitely be in the mix for that, because, and especially considering the fact too that it is not all that expensive, and compared to these other devices that try to do the same thing, but don't do it as effectively as ours, because ours isn't exactly the same as the other ones. So I'm wondering too if that is something else that we should emphasize too, because people think, oh, it must be so expensive to ultimately, have some kind of safety net, when there is something else out there that's a little bit cheaper and more effective.
Well, I suppose to flip that on its head is, what's more expensive, a small monthly fee for protection and peace of mind, or having to deal with the fallout?
Yeah.
Well, the other thing too is something we mentioned just a little bit earlier. By the time the government gets around to passing all these laws, technology will have changed, and those laws won't even apply anymore.
Very true. Very true.
And they're going to spend all this money trying to develop this technology to fix all these things, and then by that time technology will have advanced, and they would have made these things outdated. So it's best to keep, I would think, to keep this in the private free enterprise zone, and somehow enforce and make people to be held accountable for the data that they release by accident, make them liable. And
that's a very interesting idea.
And once people are liable for something, then they're going to stand up and take notice. Right now, there's no liability, and if someone gets hacked, I mean, Michelle just mentioned $15 million for the Sony hack. That's so small, given today's economy.
That's a drop in the bucket.
It's a drop in the bucket. That's just a cost of doing business for them. They lost more money on movies being released without their permission than what's going to be happening on the suits.
Well,
so
I'm sure they lost more money from those Adam Sandler movies they keep filming too.
Yeah. Now, maybe they made better movies; they wouldn't have to worry about it. But they also lost a lot of people lost their security, and a lot of private information was given out, so security numbers, addresses, things like that, to allow people, the wrong people, to get their hands on it and pull off some identity theft, which we're going to probably start seeing cropping up in about 6 to 8 months from now.
Yeah, and there definitely should be some rules in place. For example, if you buy, say, some towels or something from Target, Walmart, why do they need to keep your credit card information on file? They store all of that in databases that people can hack. They probably usually don't encrypt these things, so it's all in clear text. If anybody can get in, they can take it. The question is, why do they keep it?
Well, I can explain to you, and I'm being facetious at this point in time. But they're doing it for your just thinking for your own good, so that way they can keep an eye on what you buy, and that way if they'll know that Miles bought 2 cupcakes, and he buys 2 cupcakes every Tuesday. So Tuesday comes and Miles doesn't buy the 2 cupcakes, then they can gently remind him that he forgot to buy his cupcakes. So that way they can help you, and I'm being facetious here. They don't really help you, they want to help themselves, but the upshot is, yes, they're going to use that to further target their marketing and their sales.
Now, what do you think the likelihood is of the geniuses that we have in charge in this country actually coming up with a law that says, say, after your credit card is charged, delete the credit card info? Why do they need it? What do you think the chances of some sort of intelligent law actually being passed on this?
Wow, that's an oxymoron. You're going to talk about intelligence and our national government.
That's why I said, what are the chances?
That's like everybody else.
Slim to none is an acceptable answer.
Slim to none.
And Slim just left town?
Yeah, the Slim's gone. Yeah, I would say it's very slim. I mean, but...
So basically, these kind of things, there's no chance of these things being stopped. There's no reason why Target or Sony or anybody, or not, excuse me, not Sony, Walmart or any of these other companies are going to not keep your credit card information.
No, they want your credit card information. They want to know what you're buying, when you're buying it, how much you buy, what your average purchase is, and then they also going to be able to get to the records of the bank to find out what your household income is, and they can start target marketing to you, the items that you can afford.
So in a nutshell, more hacking coming soon, more identity theft.
Yes, and I would not be surprised to eventually start seeing legal hacking. And the people on the legal side of the equation call it data mining. They say we're mining the data to make our sales program, our marketing.
Is that kind of like saying I didn't break the rules, I misinterpreted the rules?
No, they're just saying I purchased the information, so therefore it's legal.
Oh.
So I want to use this information to further refine our marketing, so we know what to buy, so we have less waste, so that people can get what they want at our stores at the right time. And the bottom line is still hacking.
Yeah.
It's still hacking, and it's still sending out your information. It's just a question of what side of the equation are you on.
If it walks like a duck and talks
like a duck, it's a duck.
Obama mentioned about punishments for hacking being higher, but I'm wondering too if once those laws get passed, won't have hackers discovered new techniques and things like that. So if somebody were to get hacked, it would be a lot harder for them to find people.
Well, how would they define hacking? Some people are of the mind hacktivists, I believe is the term, where if you have a sit-in in real life, you don't want you want to boycott a business, you do set up a demonstration outside and you prevent people from coming inside. That is an active legal form of protest. And now some of these hacktivists are saying that by them doing this to businesses with DDoS attacks, denying people access to their site, they're essentially doing the same thing just in a digital form. How does that stand out to you, George? What do you think about that?
I think that's that's all a good question, and they can pass laws to make it illegal, but passing laws doesn't stop people from doing it. And now with the Internet of Things, those people can be anywhere. They don't have to be governed by the laws of the United States. They can be governed. They can be in another. They can be on a space station.
But I guess what I'm getting at is, assuming they're a U.S. citizen and all this, they get caught, busted, blah, 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 blah. Should those people who, in their minds, are just being hacktivists, should they be charged worse than somebody who is standing in front of a physical location with a sign, a picket sign? See, these are the things that I don't think our government can fully wrap their heads around, and I don't think they're going to be able to legislate these things correctly.
Yeah.
I think the problem is, too, though, when customer information gets shared out to the public because of maybe some hacks that they initially maybe wanted to do because maybe they thought the company wasn't doing enough protection, but that by exposing information, but then at the same time you're exposing innocent people's information at the same time to just prove a point, and at the same time you have to think to yourself, is that really ethical or not? And
well, then you also have to flip the coin and say, would the company have done anything about it if people didn't bring it to light? The people who brought it to light, you can kind of say they're the good guys by letting everybody know this is the problem, because for all we know, somebody was behind the scenes about to do the same thing that we would have never known about.
That's true. That's true. And we can bring up the controversial Mr. Snowden on this, and he's very controversial. On one hand, some people look at him as a hero for making people knowledgeable of what was actually going on with the NSA and all the information they were collecting. And because of his releases, a lot of laws have been changed.
Absolutely.
Not that anybody's following the laws, but laws have been changed, and now the CIA, the NSA, all these secret organizations are being investigated to see what they're doing with this data. So on one hand, some people believe that Snowden was a hero and a patriot for actually, getting people's awareness up so that we know about this. And then on the other hand, there are people who said no, that was secret information. It shouldn't have been released. But that's one of those things that sit right in the line, and everybody has to take a decide as was Snowden a patriot, or was he a spy and a traitor?
Well, I got a better question for you. Assuming men in black suits and ties and earpieces don't bust in on us right now, and we can always edit this out, would Titan have stopped Edward Snowden?
Yes, Titan would have stopped Snowden. And
there's no NSA busting through the door yet.
Not yet. But the thing is, we did get a call from the NSA, and thankfully they didn't call. But I've been reading and done a lot of reading on where these secret organizations have actually intercepted deliveries of computers and communication gear. They were destined for a company, and what they do is they get the gear and they put their own back doors in it, and then the gear is delivered to these companies to allow our secret governmental organizations to eavesdrop on these companies.
So just like how the U.S. government now does not buy electronics that were made in China for the same reason, they're doing the same thing to their own citizens.
That's exactly what they do. So that's why I was a little bit ambivalent about talking to the NSA about that, because the first thing I wouldn't want to hear is, can you put a back door in? Can you send us a box for us to examine? Then pretty soon we're stuck in here being patriots, and we're actually giving them a back door to actually go and spy on private citizens.
And because as a U.S. company, if they ask by law, you're required to, which brings into other forms.
No, they have to be ordered by. We can't be ordered.
Yes.
Ordered by.
Very important distinction. Now, companies like, let's say, Microsoft with Windows 7 Ultimate, they have BitLocker, forms of encryption, stuff like that. How trustworthy would you say that is then if more than likely the NSA and the CIA has contacted them, now that we know what we know because of Snowden?
Well, back in the Clinton days, if I remember correctly, it was against the law to have any form of cryptography that exceeded 256 bits.
Interesting.
Because they didn't have computers that could break the algorithm. Well, now we're at 4,000 bits and climbing, and our computers can still break it. So really, in fact, they would pass a law where there was a code that they couldn't break.
Well, I remember reading something last year. They actually forced a woman who was involved in a scam to give up the password for her encrypted laptop. She fought against it, saying it was a form of self-incrimination, and she fought it for months and months and months, and my recollection is they forced her to give up the password, setting a new precedent. That
is a new precedent. I don't know. It depends. Maybe she should have called up Snowden and asked him if he had any extra room where he was living.
Call Putin instead.
And call Putin would probably put him up. That's what he would probably do. That would probably be the best thing. But then again, people say that a lot of times with police brutality cases, and people have been filming the event on their phones. All they have to do is just, if they have a password on their phones, if the police demand their phones, they just turn their phones off.
Absolutely.
and not give them the password.
Absolutely.
So that's one way, but that doesn't keep them from smashing up your phone either, and smashing up the chip. So all that information is gone. But that's a big issue, is when you give up your password.
Very true.
So we have, we have this Internet of Things, privacy. It's an issue that's going to be here forever. And if anybody puts any stock in George Orwell's book, 1984, you'll see that for the sake of living in a, quote, paradise, people give up all their privacy. But that's what they gave up in order to live in their privacy, that they could live in a perfect world, and they wouldn't have to, and as long as they gave up the privacy, the government could track whatever they did.
All trade-offs.
It's all a question of trade-offs. And what we're like right now, what we're used to doing now, people back in the 1400s, 1700s, 1800s would think, oh my goodness, how could a woman dress that way? How could a man act that way? You mean you're gonna drink on Sunday? Oh my God, that's incredible. Well, things change, and we can't. We will never know what it's going to be like in the future. But people are going to have to make adjustments.
So hold on, you mean people aren't drinking on Sunday?
I don't.
Oh, well.
Much.
Much. Okay.
Much.
Okay.
Any more?
Now that we got that set.
Or any less?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, because you wonder too, if with the Internet of Things, if the hackers will ultimately become like the artificial intelligence. Like once they start getting in other people's things, what can they do with them, and what could they ultimately use them for?
Well, AI is going to come out on there's a lot of different areas that will benefit from AI.
Mm-hmm.
One, the hackers. If they had AI to do the hacking for them, okay, they wouldn't have to sit there in front of the keyboards. They could just let the AI algorithms run and let the AI go ahead and get the data out.
That means they have to go outside and get sunlight. I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, yeah, then they'll do something else. They'll get some AI for the AI.
We're talking about, creatures who like to chain themselves to their chairs and program for 10 hours a day for fun.
Yeah, that's true. But that's one place AI come from. Another place AI is gonna start coming from is corporations who want to put the thinking, and thinking people get paid more money. So you get somebody, if they can replace their thinkers with AI, they're going to save money. Bottom line is to replace labor. So I think anything where labor can be replaced is going to be a place where AI is going to be a perfect fit.
Absolutely.
I was watching a commercial, and I won't mention the name of the manufacturer, but they had this car driving down the road, and the guy wasn't paying attention, and this alarm goes off and tells them, oh, you're in another lane. Oh, okay, so the car swings back in the proper place. So, oh, you're going to run into somebody. So the car automatically puts on the brakes, and then he does something else, and the car automatically corrects him. And then the closing sentence in this commercial is that now cars do the important thing, so you can really enjoy your driving. Well, there's no driving going on here, folks. You're just sitting in, letting somebody else do the driving. So again, how much are we going to give up? And if we start giving up our labor and everything we do, what are we going to do as a species?
Very true.
Reminds me of WALL-E. Remember WALL-E with the humans and how they didn't have any. And they didn't even walk, I think. They just had like these machines that would just drive them around and
I don't even
would
think
do
they could
everything.
walk under their own power.
Yeah, and they couldn't figure out like what to do or how to do like the simple things that us old folk are used to.
We're rapidly approaching there. I read something very recently about how kids nowadays, everything they're used to touch screens, push buttons, push a button, receive bacon, as the saying goes. But now old things, mechanical things like lawnmowers, washing machines, dryers, old ice trays, for example, kids don't understand how they work. They're all used to digital stuff now, so our whole mindset is going to change. Kids who are born nowadays think completely different than people now, as it always goes.
There's an old song that came out in it was released in 1964, but it got popular in 1969. But it's the song called "In the Year 2525 by Zager and Evans, and it described exactly what we're talking about. This is by the time the year 2525, they say you're not going to have any legs because your legs aren't going to have nothing to do. Well, yeah, that's where we're going to get to the point. But then, we got to start thinking that how would that change the very fabric
of what it is to be human?
Of what it is to be human, and a fabric what it is to be a society. I mean, we gain our identity, right, wrong, or indifferent from the work that we do. Well, if nobody has any work, okay, where's the food going to come from?
From the sky.
From the sky, right? The government's going to have to make it. Okay, of course the government going to get the money if no one's making any money because no one's getting, those taxes. So what is actually going to happen to the fabric of society when there is actually nothing to do?
I can tell you.
Let me have it.
Skynet.
Skynet.
See,
there you go.
We're back for full circle here.
Yep. And people don't have to cook anymore, right? You don't have to cook anymore. Everything's cooked for you in the morning.
It could be like Star Trek. What are they called? Replicators?
Yeah, replicators. Yeah, they make whatever you want for you. And we don't have to even fly in outer space because those spaceships will be piloted by AI. So that there really isn't anything for us to do.
Right.
What are we going to do? And you can only watch so much TV. Unless we're going to become a nation of electronic game players.
Maybe, who knows?
But then we'll get AI to do that, so we'll have one AI against another AI, so there's still not going to be anything for us to do.
Well, personally, for me, I think before we reach AI, we're going to start reaching the point where, as a species, we start controlling our own evolutionary path. And how we can do that, besides biological things, genetic processes, are implanting implants, circuitry, things like that into our body. There are people who are already doing this,
you're going past wearables now. You're going into insertables.
Yes, exactly. And how long until your iPhone is literally built into your palm or literally built into your eye? I mean, how long until these things happen? And then, is there a Titan product for your head?
Not yet. We're working on it. That's on the next one. But that's a good point.
Have you found any guinea pigs yet?
Well, in a way, Miles, you're really not far from the truth because there are pacemakers and insulin pumps and things like that that are implanted in the body, and they are managed and controlled by Bluetooth from the outside.
Yep.
And they've actually proven that people from the outside can actually hack those Bluetooth.
I read about this. They can inject more insulin from an insulin pump and kill you.
And kill you.
The company who makes them didn't care.
Didn't care.
It wasn't a problem.
That's it. There wasn't a problem. And the same with the pacers. The pacemakers for the heart. Someone can stop your heart remotely with a laptop, or maybe even a cell phone, or with an app on a cell phone.
Yeah, it gives you a nice, warm, fuzzy feeling deep inside, but that's probably all the extra insulin in your system.
That's true. That's true. So those insertables are actually here now. So, and they're actually can be controlled from the outside. They have everybody uses GPS. Everyone's familiar with GPS. The cruise lines use it. Some students from a very top-end college in the United States, I won't say where, they went alongside a cruise ship in the Caribbean, and they actually piloted the cruise ship from their laptop while they were riding alongside that cruise ship.
They must have fed it false GPS
They
coordinates.
fed it false GPS coordinates. And the boat just did exactly what they wanted to, and nobody in the wheelhouse knew what was going on.
Because they probably don't know how to.
They don't know how to do it. Yeah, they probably don't know how to triangulate anymore. They just look and they swipe the screen, and according to the screen, they were following the right coordinates. But they're making the boat go in S shapes and making it go in a circle, and they were all laughing, and nobody on the boat knew it. Not even the passengers.
Wow.
So that's that this technology is it's good and bad. We'll see what's going to happen here, but we're opening up a whole new door of again, So we'll see where it takes us.
Speaking of opening doors, the FCC.
FCC.
Or FCC, excuse me. I'm sorry about that. They want to keep they believe they're for. It is believed by the public that they are for the concept of net neutrality, which is the principle that that internet service providers and government should treat all data on the internet equally, not discriminating or charging differentially by user, content, site, platform, application, type of attached equipment, or mode of communication. So, sort of in other words, net neutrality, from what I can tell, is it's supposed to make things not monopolized throughout the connections and communications throughout the internet.
Well, let me throw out two ways of looking at it.
Money and money.
Money and big money.
Yes. That's a more accurate answer than mine.
There we go.
There's two ways of looking at it. Let's say the three of us decide that we're going to go out and we're going to start a broadcasting company, and we're going to broadcast sunsets from the Pacific Coast. That we're going to broadcast them to the East Coast. So we're going to get ourselves a high-speed line, 20 megabits, 50 megabits, and then we're going to send that 24/7 to 200,000 customers on the East Coast. Okay, and all we're going to do on the East Coast is get ourselves a big bandwidth line and tie into Fios or the equivalent back on the East Coast. Now we're sending all this bandwidth, and we're using up all this bandwidth, and we have very little investment in it. But we're using up all this bandwidth, and we're going on the backs of AT&T,
Right.
the big money people, and they're upset that we're writing on their stuff for free. So that's what they're saying is net neutrality. Well, so net neutrality, no one's paying anything extra, to actually get this high priority bandwidth, and they have very little investment. So that's one way of looking at it. Mm-hmm. The other thing is I want to send, a snapshot of my kids, my grandkids to my mother who's in New York, and now I got to wait 5 days for it to get there because
it's a priority.
Because somebody else has priority. So you got to look at it from both sides here, and that's going to be hard to make a decision. If we're going to go with net neutrality, then everybody has to come to an agreement of what that means.
Well, the FCC, I read earlier today, released rules that they put up for public review saying that there will be no quote-unquote fast lanes or slow lanes like everybody was fearing. So it looks like the FCC is hopefully listening to reason, hopefully listening to the internet denizens and everything that they are saying and how the internet functions. Do you think that's a good thing then?
I personally think it's a good thing.
Me too.
And I think that there are going to be people who are going to take advantage of it. And every time a few people take advantage of it, it makes it worse for somebody else.
Well, it's funny.
But I think it's a really good idea.
Well, it's funny, all these people that work for Comcast and all these other places that are protesting it, where did they used to work? Or where did they go to work afterwards?
Yeah, that's true.
FCC.
That's right. They all used to work. Now they're lobbyists for Comcast, and they used to work at the FCC.
Exactly, yeah, or the other way around.
All right, so I like the way they're going right now, and I hope it stays that way, but we're going to see how long until there's some inventive people who take advantage of it, and pretty soon you start passing laws that are going to...
Absolutely. This was a complete non-issue that got turned into a political quagmire, I guess you could say.
Absolutely.
I think they wanted to reclassify the internet as well to from...
A public utility.
Yeah.
That would be more beneficial to the companies. That's what they were trying to do. I believe the ruling today, or the set of laws that they passed forward today, said that they will remain classified as a public utility.
Well, that's going to be kind of interesting too, because even though it's a little bit off topic, a lot of people are making a move to solar power.
Yes.
So they're generating their solar power, and anything they don't generate, they're selling back to the electric companies.
Yes.
Well, the electric companies say, well, wait a minute, we don't want to pay you the same amount that you pay us, because we're the ones that are carrying the electricity on our lines. So we have to charge you a transport fee. See, so that idea of a transport fee has already started, and that's going to be the beginning of the things that are going to start slowing things down on net neutrality.
I think you're absolutely right. Well, we are approaching our hour mark. We are 54 minutes.
Yeah, I think we're good.
I think we've addressed everything that we needed to address for this podcast. But if there are any questions, comments, concerns, or anything in between of that nature, feel free to comment below. All of our social media is linked below, so you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and be sure to check out our main channel where we will be doing funny and interesting videos on sort of what we do at Oasis Technology, and also giving you more information about Titan as well, our anti-hacking device.
We would also like to thank everybody for stopping in for our first podcast, and if you made it this far, thank you very much. And we'd also like to thank our first guest, CEO and President of Oasis Technology, Dory Baldonado.
Well, thank you. It was great to be here, and I'd like to pontificate, so this is a great platform for
We'll
me.
make sure
Thank you.
to insert lots of people cheering when we introduce you and stuff like that.
That'd be fine. Thanks for having me.
And claps.
And on that note, we're signing off. Have a good night, ladies and gentlemen.